wild, man. Like, it was the most, like I said, it was the top of the mountain for me in terms of like getting, because you get into film and like there's a magic, and that's what I always tell people. And if my buddy Adam too, when I was not working in film and I was down here and he would just have like a shit day on set, and he's like, these assholes are blah 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 and this, and I'd grab him and I got it, and it's funny because I had to be that to him, and I so catch myself getting that little bit, because you do enough of these MOWs or shit you don't want to see, and you just get a little jaded. The film industry can do that to you. You turn into one of those old grips on set, and I used to grab Adam and I'd grab him and look at me right now. You're telling me that you were on the set of goddamn Yellow Jackets today and you're pissed off because your key grip yelled at you.
Hello. Welcome again to another episode of The Deficit, where it's our mission to stimulate your deficit with good chats, life hacks, and everything in between. My name's Adam Aubrey, and I'm joined today by a good friend of mine, Mr. Brody Thomas. He is a producer, an entrepreneur, and just all around, I guess you could call him an artist's Swiss Army knife. Anything you need done, he finds a way to get it done. And he's chosen to join me today for a session.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm glad to have you, honestly. Like, when I saw you were coming down, I was like, I can't miss this. I got to have him on here. So, like, why don't you tell me first off, elaborate a little bit more on what I gave the audience there. Tell us what you do.
I like that, an artistic Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
So, started out filmmaker first and foremost. I would like to say myself as I got a real passion for film, but through that, has kind of driven me to this, what I would call almost a mercenary lifestyle, where I've kind of picked up all these other hobbies and things along the way, because to have my career in film,
yeah, I like that.
I need to be able to supplement that, and a Monday to Friday job isn't going to be able to give me that amount of money. So now I've kind of found, I started out doing stickers right around COVID. I had a buddy worked for a construction company. We were selling them. He got a machine. We started selling them on the side. Then he actually moved down here, and I'd seen at that time, it was around 2019, he was making an extra $300-$400 a month off like truck decals, like
sick,
a little silhouette of a bit thinner girl. He's like, I like them thick, or things like just
I like them
decals.
Thick, trucker decals. Hell yeah, those are the guys who buy them too.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
and
yeah.
he was making good money, so I thought, like, here's a good thing. And I was working for a sign shop at the time, so I was getting the vinyl for like next to nothing or
sign
free.
shop. What's that like? That must be fucking cool.
It was and it wasn't. So the sign shop. I did, so the highlights of the whole career was I did a 173-foot single-piece sign. So a gas station, that's a card lock for truckers with 37 pumps.
Whoa.
So Co-op, Co-op Gas,
yeah,
decided that in their infinite wisdom, they wanted to create a sign that went all the way along the gas station, the whole 173 feet, in one piece with no seams. So what those are made out of is what I can't remember the actual word is. It's like a vinyl that stretches. You have to stretch it and use these bars and clip it in. So what that came in was about 3 or 4 giant 20-foot lengths, and they're 20 foot by 20 foot, all zigzags. So us and 4 dudes, and this is like, God, would have been January.
Holy crap. Whoa.
2019, so there's like snow on the ground. We're in Vanderhoof too, like way up middle of BC.
That's cold. If anybody here isn't from Canada listening to this, Vanderhoof is up north. It's cold.
So we're talking like a foot of snow on the ground, probably minus 15, minus 20, and we would have to take, we had to get the crane operators to help us because we didn't have enough guys. We're dragging this thing like 200 feet up and down this parking lot. Then we took 3 separate cranes to hook them up to the thing, and then as the 3 cranes were lifting in tandem, I had to run underneath with a scissor lift and bolt it all up.
Holy shit.
So that'd be a highlight. The Aberdeen Mall sign in Kamloops. So that's about
you?
83 feet high. Yeah, I've been to the very top of that sign. My buddy's, it's actually so funny. He's standing in the top of the sign because you can climb the tower, and I'm coming up in the lift. And I don't mind heights. I'm not I do a lot of aerial work stuff, like gripping as well, like lifts. Yep. No problem. But there's a certain length about around 80 feet where I'm just like, So he's got a photo of me about 40, and I'm smiling, I'm flipping him off, and then you see me about 60, and you see a little tense, and then there's right at the top at 80, and I'm just got this white knuckle grip on the basket. Because you're up there, and the thing that you don't realize is there's like a 6 feet of sway.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're 80 feet,
the wind is shifting it, right? That's wild, man.
Those were the highlights, but then the other side of it was A lot of gas stations. So many gas stations. Like gas stations from Vancouver all the way as far as Edmonton and
Really?
Lord Coast. So like the cool stuff was cool. Overall, it was real boring.
Okay.
And the thing about it, it's a cool job in that the guys who were good at it, like I was a crane operator, you're an electrician, you're doing vinyl work, you're doing like playing with plastic and all sorts of things, fabrics. The guys who are good at it are really good, but the sign industry as a whole is so convoluted. Like we were a company in Kamloops, and by the time that we got a contract for, say, an Esso contracts Parkland, who owns the signs. Parkland contracts Country Signs, who's this massive company of Ontario, who subcontracts to another one that handles Western Canada. That Western Canada subcontracts it to a guy in Calgary. That Calgary guy then subcontracts it to it. So by the time that you're getting the job, it's gone through 8 different contractors or loopholes. So you're trying to get an answer on anything, and it's just corporate. Like
you got to reach up the ladder. Who has to reach up the ladder? Who has to reach up the ladder? And so on.
Yeah, it was just
crazy. Okay, so the sign thing, and then after the sign company, you got into. How'd you end up getting? Did you go into gripping after that, or like what?
So film is something I've always wanted to do. Film since I was movies were always a big part of my life growing up. My whole family, but high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was the kid you asked like what like.
Yeah, what's a high school Brody like? Tell me what that's like.
Football player, but not like jog.
Yeah,
nerdy stoner.
Nice.
But yeah, the counselors would pull me in and they'd be like, "What do you want to do?" And I'd be like, "Video games. I like video games." It's like I couldn't tell them I want to smoke weed for a job. Like that's who's gonna pay me to do that.
It sounds like we would have been in the same clique in high school, dude. Absolutely, I was the same way. That's fucking hilarious.
And then, like I said, I worked at the movie theater. Movies were a big thing in my family, but it didn't quite see like a career until summer between grade 8 and grade 9. I went and saw Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. It was my very first Tarantino film. And the part where Christoph Waltz is standing in the door at the very start of the movie and they shoot up all the floor and there's just that silhouette in the door and she's running. There's the mud just sweating down her face and he slowly pulls out his Luger and the music's building and building. It keeps closer and closer shots of his face and he's just slow and calm and he pulls out the Luger and aims it and just, au revoir. There was something about that. I remember sitting in the theater, was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make movies, man. Like that is the. So that being said, 18, I get pushed into. You shouldn't go to film school. Why don't you come get a trade? Go be an electrician first. Because I come from I'm a 4th generation electrician. My great grandfather was a friggin' Sparky. My grandpa was the first class at BCIT. He'd been doing electrical for 17 years.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, so it's in my blood.
Holy shit.
But I have no interest in it, man. So I always wanted to do film, got pushed that, and then spent about 10 years chasing my tail. Like I said, I did doors, I did signs, I did HVAC, I did sales, I did
all over the place.
All over the map. Got that sign company about 2018, 2019, right before COVID. I have this big revelation after Christmas, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be happy until I go for this film thing. Like I told the old lady, and I was like, I got to do this. I need 6 months. I'm going to go down to Vancouver. I'm quitting my job. I'm going for it. Like I have to. If I don't do this now, I'm going to regret ever not doing this. Yeah, you're the same.
I totally understand. Yeah.
Moved down to Vancouver, quit my job, got into like an IATSE application, ACFC, was talking to directors I knew, producers, buddies who were in the industry. 7 months go by. Phone doesn't ring, working for a buddy's concrete contracting company. Great at the start.
But it's concrete. Yeah, concrete is...
By the end, starts failing, where he's not getting paid, I'm not getting paid, me and the old lady are on the rocks. I kind of have to make a decision, like... It's this or my relationship. I'd say, screw this. I was like, you know what? I did it. I moved down to Van. I went for it. Moved back to Kamloops. Decided relationships more important, which it is. I love my lady to death.
Love is, you always go for love, man. 100%.
Got an electrical job in town. Not bad. I was making good money, but was miserable. Absolutely miserable. Running my own show, Shoppers Drug Mart, had all my own stuff, doing my own thing, and just hated every minute of it. Every single, I was just, but at this point, I didn't know, I was kind of in this loss because I'd done it. I'd gone and thrown everything I had at it, and then my phone rings. This was such a good thing because I tell my producer who I first worked with and I still work with in Kamloops, and I tell my buddy Adam who called me, it's like the amount of times I had a screaming match with my girlfriend about us moving back to Vancouver. I was like fuck, I am ever going to be making a movie in Kamloops. Like fuck, Megan, there's going to be a film industry in Kamloops.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, my phone rings. My other buddy Adam,
Yeah.
You're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? They're making a movie in Kamloops. I can get you on. I was like, no way. No way. So the first day, it was a night shoot. Started at 6 o'clock on a Friday. I had to work my other job on the Thursday at the electrical thing, and I knew I had to get X, Y, and Z done to have that Friday off. So I bucked a 14-hour day at the electrical job, called my boss, was like, this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. I'm not coming in tomorrow. Left that job at 5, went and worked my first 14-hour day on set, helped them wrap till about 8 or 7:30 in the morning, and then I got a call and I had to go back for one thing, drove back up to Shoppers Drug Mart, showed up and I walked in the door and the general contractor comes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Dave, you get to pick one. I'm doing one thing and then I'm going home because I've been up for about 28 hours and I've been working for 26 of them." He's like, "All right, that's fair." Did one plug, and then that day it turned into another. And they called me back and they said, "We don't need you this week. Can you come do the next?" And I called my boss. And we kind of, like I said, I was in a good spot I was running the job. So I knew if I could do, like I was bucking like 14, 16-hour days on the construction site, banging everything done to being like, now I'm waiting on the drywallers. Now I'm waiting this. I'll see you in 3 days. And then I would go grip on the side on this little indie horror.
Nice, man.
Then that led me into Buddy from Kelowna. Made a Facebook post. It's like, I'm looking for a grip. I was the first one to comment. I was like, "Hey, like I'm only my first weekend, blah, blah, blah." Didn't get an answer. Then 3 of the chicks I'd met on set, Chrissy actually was one of them, Little Mac, all commented like, "Brody's great. Like, you should hire this guy, blah, blah, blah." So Buddy calls me up and he's like, "How do you know these chicks?" I'm like, "Oh, I was in Kamloops, blah, blah, blah."
Was this the CMW one? Like that was my first AD gig too.
This would have been 3 shows before. This was in Kelowna, and that's how I got into those boys.
Yeah.
But he called me up, and then I didn't know too. So like, this is my first time gripping. So I show up with like my full electrician's toolkit, like drills, everything, big steel toes and shit. And I show up and I plunk down my tool bag, and he's like, "Oh," he's like, "But I'm surprised my guys bring a wrench." I was like, "I don't know. I was told to bring tools, so I brought my tools." And
meanwhile, your buddies walk up in like running shoes, like
dude, everyone had the little chest packs. They got running shoes, and nice tights, and I got like my Carhartts on and my big tool bag. I'm feeling a little out of place here, man. Like,
it's kind of shocking how much like you're so prepared for like some kind of like hardcore work, and then you get there and like everyone's like, "No, you got to keep your feet comfortable, man." Like that's the number one thing, because you're on your feet for like 12 hours a day, right? It's like we don't bother with steel toes, even though like I guess there's those dollies and shit. You ever seen anyone get a foot crushed yet?
Yep.
Ugh.
Actually, funny enough, me and Buddy were shooting at this big would have been last summer in West Kelowna. Big giant $50 million mansion on the lake, like just absolutely gorgeous. But the crappy thing is I don't know if this was on the ADs or the movie or whatever it was. We're talking like to get from the top here is this massive like 100-foot drop loop, and that's the first level.
Like
and then
driveway?
There's another one. This is like no lawns around the side.
Oh my god.
To go down from like the patio level to the pool level to the second pool level down to like the wedding area vineyard.
Okay. Yep.
So, but they would be like, "Oh, we're going to shoot at the top of the house, then we're going to go down to the vineyard, then we're going to go back, and then we're going to come here, and then we're going to go in." And it's like, can we not do everything down there and then bring the dolly
just
up
block shoot
once?
it? Yeah, just block shoot it.
And then it was like, no, every time we're going back and forth. So, of course, we're rushing, and we're like down like 4-man crew, CMW, low budget stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we're pushing the dolly up the hill, and there's these little cobblestones, but they were almost covered by I felt so bad. We're pushing the dolly, and my buddy's like, "Just give her," like it's kind of stuck. I'm like, "Okay," and I go to push it, and it hits one of those rocks, and it jumps, and the wheel came down, and smashed broke his 2 toes.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Was it one of the big dollies?
No,
too?
it was a peewee, but it'll still do it, man.
Yeah, those are 400 pounds. Like those are not light dollies. Apparently, those were originally used for like loading ammunition into planes and stuff. That's crazy.
Pee-wee Chapman was designed to lift bombs into the planes because it made it easier to bottom load the bombs into the planes. So that's where it originally came from. And someone was like, "Oh, I can lift a camera with that." Yeah, but originally, it was a World War II invention.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's wild. So, like, 2 broken toes. Holy! I actually had that. We were moving a car into a studio a little while ago. I guess this was actually like a year ago now. But like, we have you put the wheels. You actually drive the car up onto these wheel dollies, right? Yeah. And I'm like, whatever. I'll help them move it in, right? I wasn't wearing steel toes or anything, and I felt this thing roll over my shoe. And it just nicked the front of my big toe, only just, and tore the rest of the front of my shoe off. I got this close to like losing my big toe. It would have been a whole car on it. Fucking so close. That's the one thing I didn't really take into account. I guess you grips, you really got to watch your feet, eh?
And it's such a fickle thing too, right? Because I've had like on a show. I think we were on the what would have been one of the Kamloops shows. WCB showed up, and I didn't have steel toes because it's a fickle thing of like, yes, I should have steel toes because it's a heavy piece of equipment. But secondly, I have to dance behind that thing. I have to be so light on my feet that you don't know there's a guy pushing that camera. Most people don't even work in film, don't know that's what a dolly is. That's what's doing that. If you showed them the camera moving that smooth, and then this big friggin' metal thing with a guy pushing you, like that isn't making that.
Yeah, they all think it's some guy like just moving along with it.
Yeah, right, doing the super buttery Steadicam stuff. They don't realize it's a whole thing with a dude on top of it too.
Yeah, and like the grip's the guy operating that whole dolly while the camera guy's sitting on top.
And like I said, it's such that double-edged sword where like I get WCB and it's like, yeah, I get it for insurance. You want me to have steel toes, but it's like, but the director doesn't want me to have like they're gonna see clonk 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 even at my lightest.
Yeah.
It's such a double-edged sword. But yeah, that show that we did, I remember there like WCB showed up on set, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like just doing laps on the radio, like, where is he, Kate, going around? And then somebody tells me, they're like, WCB's not leaving until he talks to Brody. He wants to talk to the dolly grip. And I was just like, yeah, that's fine. He's not going to find me. And I just kept doing laps until eventually he left. And I told my boys, if like he asked about the dolly, it's sitting right there. And it wasn't like, luckily we had a locked off shot. And that's the thing too. They don't understand because he came up and they told him, he's like, everything's staying here. They went, yep. And he thought that's how we set up everything for the whole day, and that was fine. So the dolly wasn't moving, the light stands weren't moving.
He actually thought that was going to be the setup for the whole day. Oh my God. Wow. Holy shit.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because they want their hands in it, which I understand. I'm not saying I'm on WCB right now, but they want their hands in it because there's the money.
Yeah.
It's not about, because my dad's been a construction safety officer for going on 20 years now, but he came up back in the day when he got his electrical apprenticeship in the 80s. And we're talking back when he worked at Adams Lake Mill when Adams Lake and Shuswap killed 4 people on average a year. That was just a statistic. You got hired at the mill. That is just an average. You work at Adams Lake Mill. On average, we kill about 3 or 4 people a year due to accidents or whatever. That was just the 80s. That's how it was.
And that's in the 80s?
Yep. Oh, yeah. 100%. 3 to 4 people a year.
That sounds like it should be something back in the 40s or some shit, like when kids were working in mills.
Nope.
What the fuck?
Literally, my dad's, they would literally take 2, they'd have like a 500-pound transformer. They'd take 2 extension ladders, and like let's say they got to get up 10 feet. They'd take 2 extension ladders, tip them onto this on like a 45, take my dad and another apprentice, strap them in full body harnesses, strap them to the transformer, and then my dad and the other apprentice would haul the friggin' transformers with full body harnesses like workhorses up the ladder. And this is how they installed stuff.
Oh my God.
And this is, like I said, it's not that far ago. This was like 40 years ago. So... But that being said, that's why people hate safety. It's like it's like when we had COVID teams in film, It was,
nobody sits at the safety guy's table at lunchtime.
But that being said, and I came up in construction as the boss's kid, and I was always got the like, safety guys are assholes and blah, blah, blah. He's like, but your dad, he's all right. But my dad got it. He never went by the book, but he came up from the strapping a friggin' 500-pound generator to him and climbing up an extension ladder to being on the safety side now. But it's about having that line of, the book says this, I know you want to do this, we can meet in the middle and make this safe.
Yeah, where do we find the compromise?
And that's the problem with WCB and a lot of these safety guidelines is you get these people trained in these positions that have no concept of what the other side's wanting to do. All they're seeing is, my book says no.
Yeah.
My book says this is unsafe.
Yeah.
And the guy doing it is going like, can I show you why this is unsafe? Yes, but this is safer than X or safer than what I would be.
A lot of times it's the only way the job's going to get done too.
And then they go, oh, you see, right? But it's being able to have that conversation.
Holy shit. That must have been wild.
Oh, just some of the stories from back in the day. And like Tech Metals in Trail.
Yeah.
So Tech Metals is one of 5 sites in the entire world and one of the only ones in North America. I think the other 3 are in like the Congo and the other one's in like Siberia, where we can smelt and process gold, lead, silver, and a bunch of other crazy, disgusting, toxic chemicals, Z-Link for like batteries and stuff. And this place is wild. So the Trail in BC, if you don't know, their hockey team is called the Smoke Eaters.
Oh my god.
Have you ever been to Trail?
Yeah.
So you know that massive mill on the side? That's Tech Kaminko. That's Tech Metals.
And they smelt
Everything.
zinc and lead there.
Literally, so we were walking through there, and there's guys that are taking us through, and they take you on a little tour, and it's super cool, and it's wild too, because the shit's been around since 1867. So you're literally in buildings where there's like knob and tube wiring from the 1910s. There's buildings you can't go in because it's asbestos. Single pane
country
windows.
there, isn't it? Canada's 1867.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
that's wild.
So like, there's like pictures of the same spot you're in, and there's like prospectors with big curly mustaches and like the old funeral home.
You'd never be allowed to have those nowadays. You get caught in the middle, no problem, man. Right? Yeah.
And the thing is, but like I said, so you're walking through and they show, and there's just a bunch of, they take you to the gold thing. There's a bunch of gold just on the ground. So we're standing there, and the one buddy we work with picks up a piece of gold, and suddenly they're like, no, put that down right now. I'm like, what? And you look down in his chest, there's a red dot. I shit you not. We look over, there's a buddy with a friggin' M16. Put that down right now. Oh, sorry.
This was in Trail?
Yeah, there's guards with M16s because they transport gold. This is wild too. This is some Fast and Furious shit. So they transport gold from here to Quebec, because the Quebec is where we get most of our lead from. So they ship it out here, and then when we refine the lead and stuff, and we ship it back to them. But the mine's there, and we refine it here. When they transport the gold, this is the wildest thing. So when they transport the gold, they'll take like a 90-car coal train.
Okay.
Now, between here and Quebec, there's 3 people on the planet who know which 2 cars in that 90-car coal train within, and this is the wildest part, to create some Fast and Furious shit, they create a box of lead encased around the gold in the train. So if you were on some, you pulled up with your car and you had your movie x-ray machine to tell which ones, the lead protects you from them being able to x-ray it to know which car the gold's in.
Whoa. Okay, that's some Fast and Furious shit for sure.
They literally have planned this so that you can't x-ray it, so that literally, I don't know if it's satellites or who they're protecting it from.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So they disguise it in a coal trains.
And then
they have it in a lead box.
Not in the coal train, in the lead trains.
Okay.
So it's encased in lead.
Wow.
And there's only 3 people between here and Quebec that know which 3 cars that's in.
And that's probably one of the farthest distances you could ever travel by land, considering the size of Canada. That's insane. Holy shit. Have you ever, are there any stories of people trying to rob these trains?
Not that I've ever heard of, because how would you know? You couldn't, there's no way to get to it.
It must have happened somewhere for them to take that much precaution.
Yeah, it's wild, man, the amount of money. And the other thing too, so I used to work doing electrical, and we did a lot of work for BC Hydro. So the company I worked for was kind of a weird, we were the electrical, it was an electrical company, but then they had branched off. They had a security side, like a controls side, and a couple other things. So we were helping the security boys with these BC Hydro contracts, because security guys are super smart. They know how to do all the computers and stuff, and they can do all the wiring. They know damn well. They don't like to touch anything. They want to show up with their computer and plug it in. So it was the graviest job. It was like, if you got on this crew, it was like, oh my God, we are living the goddamn life, boys. 10-hour days, the best money in the company, and you did absolutely nothing. When you did, you were pulling the tiniest little wires in in big hydro bays. Well, the one thing we were doing, we were installing this gate, and this gate was insane. This gate had this 3-phase 600-volt motor on it with half-inch steel cables running across it. They were pouring this probably 10-foot deep by 15-foot wide I-beam cross brace thing in the ground that they filled in with cement to hold the gate, and then the gate had these cables with those motors and shit. And I'm asking the guy, I'm like, what is this for? And he goes, oh, I haven't told you this. I'm like, what? And he pulls out his phone and he pulls up the website it was from. It was legitimately listed as an anti-terrorist gate. And I went, what? I was like, we're up 7 Mile Dam in Trail. Why is it an anti-terrorist gate?
Bond villains, that's why.
Well, he goes, think about it. He's like, if you were going to attack Canada and you wanted to absolutely just cripple the Western Canada and the States, you nuke all the dams. Instantly, you cripple the whole western seaboard of North America. We don't have power.
Most of our power is run on hydro.
Us to freaking California, right? So the anti-terrorist gate, they told me, and the reason it had the motors, you could take a fully loaded freight truck, 80K, and drive it at that gate. You would mess up the gate, but the truck would not go through, because what happens is when the truck hits, the motor kicks in and the cables actually are designed to tension. So as the truck's pulling the cables in with a 600 volt, like I can't remember how many horsepower motor. Like the thing was monstrous. It was like a $2 million gate.
Wow.
And all this stuff was all anti-terrorist protection for BC Hydro.
That's hardcore. Holy shit, dude. Whoa.
Yeah, like I said, I never had crossed my mind when we were doing this. I'm like, why anti-terrorist? And he's like, think about it. If you were going to cripple North America, you would blow up our dams.
You want to get rid of, you hit the grid first. That's what they always say in the movies too, right?
And that's another thing too, people don't realize. Kamloops not only has, this is not 100%, but from what I've been told by some older people, including my grandfather, who I think was a credible source, NORAD has nukes hidden in Kamloops too. NORAD definitely has a listening station. That's open, known knowledge.
Well, yeah, up in Wells Great Park there too,
But the reason is, and again, I never thought about this, next to Vancouver, we are the point in between Vancouver and Calgary that gets the nuke. Kamloops is.
Whoa.
Think about it. We are such a hub for the entirety of BC.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You cripple being able to go south, being able to go east to west, being
supply
able to go north.
chain's totally cut off at that point.
We are literally
They've also got the TELUS data center there too, which is like huge. Like that's super military defended. Like,
so the post office, or the old courthouse downtown.
My grandpa designed that place.
Do you know how deep it goes?
I had no idea. No, I wonder if he knew.
It was, so we're doing some stuff. This is back when I did doors, and I can't remember why we were something down in the basement. We ended up going like 6 stories underground.
Of the courthouse.
Whoa. There's a whole bunker system underneath there. Like there's a whole, like we kept going, and there's like, it gets into these big old school, like clunk, clunk, clunk doors and stuff. Like there's a bunker system underneath the courthouse.
Man. What?
There's a bunch of pre-war stuff like that. I don't think people realize is in Kamloops, because I said we are such a hub. If you were going to strategically look at crippling Western Canada, we are the first spot.
Even back when World War II was going on, they were like, I remember my dad mentioning that to me, that like Kamloops was like if people were going to attack Canada, Western Canada, Kamloops would be one of the hot spots because of the fact that it is like, whether it be like the railway system, it's a midway point for all the power distribution. Like, that's crazy, man. Wow. How did you? So you know all this because your grandpa was like.
My grandpa was probably like one of the coolest people
I wonder if he worked with mine. My grandpa was like an architect in Kamloops. He did all the churches, schools, government buildings, everything.
Interesting. Yeah, he was an electrician for years and stuff. But like, it's funny getting into what you call this, the deficit, and that's what I loved when you said this idea. So I'm actually going through my own kind of, I would say at this point, I know I have ADHD. It's not a self-diagnosis. I've done the course. I've gone to the doctor. I've done the check sheets, everything. I know I have it, but it was a weird thing. Probably within the last 3-4 years was coming to terms with having adult ADHD.
Yeah.
My sister got diagnosed, and I'd had a couple buddies, and I'd like thought about it, but I never realized it. And I started talking to people about it, and I was like, "Oh wait, you could just, what do you mean you go to sleep at night and there's not like a million voices, and your brain's just not like blah, 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 blah." I'm like, that's normal. Like you just, I was like, what do you mean you don't have to smoke yourself into a coma with weed every day just to get your brain shut up? And then I realized, I was like, oh my god, I've been self-medicating myself for ADHD for like a long time. Yeah. It's like, no wonder I am a filmmaker, a sticker designer, a clothing company, I run a record, like, you know, like blah, 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 blah.
In my opinion, the number one sign that you have ADHD is that you define yourself as a jack of all. Because like 100%, anybody who I know that like has ADHD or like was like, you know, is part of that world of thinking, they never have just one thing that they're super good at. They just have all these common interests. Like I do film. I had 22 jobs before I did film. Right? I'm into music. I'm into film. I'm into like building shit. I like anything that catches my attention. I'll spend 2 months hyper focusing on that exact thing and be like, this is so cool. And then all of a sudden it's just lost interest.
And that's what I never understood too. Like even when I was starting to do the editing for the Reboot Boys and stuff, I was so hard to give them timelines.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, when is this going to be done? And I'd be like, I don't know,
Deadlines are not your friend.
Because honestly, I used to call it when the lightning strike, before I really knew what I was tapping into was hyperfocus.
Yeah.
This was my system. So my girlfriend I guess just say fiance now.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, thanks,
when did
buddy.
that happen?
July last summer.
Good for you.
So I'm trying to get the vernacular around to
Yeah,
saying that
yeah.
instead. But
Cool.
yeah. So but I'm much of a night owl. Like I'll be up like now that I've been off right now. Like I'm up till
2-3 in the morning.
every night,
Yep.
sleep until like 9 or 10. Where
Yep.
she's up at 5 a.m. and she's like out cold by 9 p.m.
I wish.
Where was I going with this?
There it is, right there. That's the deficit, right there. You just had your moment. That's it, right there.
Waking up.
Yeah. Coming up to like you were originally with Kamloops, then you were in like you've been noticing that you're experiencing symptoms of ADHD. You know you have it. You've seen the doctor, and
I don't know where I was going with the girlfriend thing, but bringing this back to the grandpa.
Yeah.
I legitimately believe, now that I'm starting to understand my own, that my grandfather, who was a championship woodworker, artist, airbrush artist, tied his own fly fishing, started his own hardware company, started his own sketchbooks, designed and flew his own glider planes, was a drummer, electrician, mechanic, probably had ADHD.
Yep.
And nobody ever knew, like, and that's
Yep.
again where it was a weird thing for my diagnosis, where it's like, of course I'm a grandpa liked everything. Grandpa did everything.
Yeah.
That was just how it was. He was always tinkering or doing with shit, and it was so removed from his generation, even from ours. Like when I was a kid, I was like, I don't have ADHD. Like, you just didn't think it was
'cause you
like
think
the
back
kid
then-
bouncing off the wall.
Yeah,
They give him Ritalin, and it was
yeah.
the obvious ones they noticed, but didn't know the spectrum of it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like autism like that. It's on a spectrum, right? It's a neurodivergent thing, and like that's what I had a hard time with, was like, you always kind of think like going through high school and stuff. You're like, no, I was just a lazy kid in high school. Like I just didn't care enough about my classes or whatever. But it's like, no, it just wasn't stimulating enough for you. There wasn't enough diversity in like the actions that you had to go through to learn the things. Like when you actually end up really enjoying something, it's because it's got so much dynamics to it. Like gripping, for example, right? You're not just pushing a dolly all day. You're stop and go, and like you're always setting different things up. Like I find jobs that require you to think outside the box and constantly adapt are like the most appealing to people with like that type of
That's
thought process,
1,000%
Yeah.
why everyone thrives neurodivergently in the film industry, and there is so many of us, is what people look outside in and look at the film industry and go, oh, that's chaos. Whereas for ADHD people, regular life and schedules and things feels like the chaos, and putting myself on a film set feels like I'm removing myself from the storm and I'm in the eye of it, because there's something about the
That's
constant,
a great way to put it.
constant movement of
Yeah.
the set that I feel sent, like it's like crack for my ADHD brain.
You've-
just feeds into it, and I can have the people and the movement and stuff. And I find, especially now that I haven't been working, like that's why I was so stoked when you called me to come down here. Like I've just been itching to get on set. Like I'm waiting on surgery next week here, so I'm gonna be 6 months off before I'm gripping again.
Do you mind me asking what the surgery is for?
Yeah, 100% shoulder surgery. So
Oh yeah, you're saying that. Okay.
last summer, dislocated my shoulder, not at work,
Oof.
camping, drinking, took a tumble over a rock, got to ride speaking of Harrison Lake, got to ride an ambulance 25K down Harrison Lake Forest Service Road.
Whoa.
Just so everyone knows, I think it's Apple that does it, but if you're out of service, try and call 911, because what happened, we didn't think, and it was like midnight, we're all pulling straws, who's going to try and, like, we're all on a copious whack of things.
Yep.
We're all trying to pull straws, who's going to drive me down to, like, even just like 10K to like the campsite thing to try and call someone to get, because like the shoulder hanging, like it was bad.
It was out, eh?
Yeah, luckily
Fuck.
I was like, I wasn't feeling that bad, but
it helps, when
but yeah, somebody called, and then like they were like, no, text this, and they were texting over the satellite. So buddy was like, had to like kind of follow it to get the signal, but the ambulance came right up to our campsite.
Yeah, they've got that emergency call thing where it actually does trigger right up to the satellite instead of going through the regular 5G network. It's pretty crazy. I think Android has that too, actually. You can just hit emergency call and it'll get you from anywhere, which is like super handy, but it kind of makes you wonder, like, why don't we get that all the time? Like, why can't we just use it anywhere we are,
Yeah, it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what they're using that network for outside of the...
Oh, probably just the military.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they exclusively military. That's crazy, man. Well, like that. So when you find, like, how long ago was this when you realized?
That was the initial July.
Yeah.
Then just before Christmas, all my grip friends out there, no matter how much they look like they're struggling, don't help camera. don't help them push a goddamn cart. They can push their own carts. The best part is the key that we had. I was besting. The key ended up having to leave that show, so I ended up keying, and I had these two who's like my prodigy, my boy, who I've had gripping with me for a while, Sammy Miami.
Nice, yeah. I remember Sammy.
Yeah. So I got Sammy with me, and we had like fresh green kid. So I'm helping push this camera cart, and there's just this little dip, and the cart gets stuck, and I go to grab the back end, and what happened is when I pushed it, my arms gave, and I was Superman like this, and I hit the ground, and the shoulders were popped right out again.
Yeah, once it's out the first time, it comes out a lot easier afterwards.
Yeah. It's like your age minus 100. So I was 30 minus your 70% chance, and then every time it pops out, it adds 10. So even with all the physio now, I'm still at a 90% chance of it popping out again.
I've got double jointed shoulders. When I was a kid, it used to be a party trick. I'd just pop them out of the sockets all the time, and I'm really paying for that now. Like they're constantly like, I'll like go to sit up in this chair, and my shoulder will just crunch.
Yeah, do a little tick.
Oh man, it's fucking annoying, and like, yeah, it's hard. It's just like the things you wish you knew when you were younger, right?
God, man, there's so many little things too. Like,
yeah. So I'm curious to know, like, what about like with your whole ADHD thing? You said, when did you finally come to terms with like understanding like this is just how I am? I guess like what
probably I would say it's been an active process of, what's the word I'm looking for? Coming to terms with it myself over the last probably 2-3 years I'd say the last 3 years of like identifying, like, yes, I have it. And then maybe the last 2 of trying to mitigate it a little bit. And then lately, in the last 6 months to a year, I've just been trying to get my own businesses off the ground. And like I said, a lot of this, kind of when COVID happened and the greasy and me getting in the film, what I did is I was unhappy. So I took a shotgun and I loaded it up with everything I thought I might like doing. I was like, I'm going to make t-shirts, I'm going to make stickers, I'm going to try and get the film. I threw it all into a shotgun and I loaded it and I shot it.
When you mentioned shotgun, I thought we were going to go for a much darker turn there for a second.
No. The problem was when I shot it, and I was expecting a shotgun blast, I was like, 1 or 2 will hit. Everything hit.
Yeah.
Like, the stickers took off, the shirts took off, the film took off, so I've kind of been in this, kind of being pulled in all these directions. Yeah. And the problem now, especially with producing our Story Hive, has been the big thing where it's like, I can't, not that I haven't been. I have, like, I think the first episode we owed our cut, I spent 3 days editing up until the thing because I left to the last goddamn minute. It was like 36 hours straight in my chair, and my eyes are just like, calling Chris. And I'm like, I swear to God, I don't want to hear from you for like 2 weeks. I can't look at you. I can't see your voice. Like,
you did this to me. You did this to me, motherfucker. That's great.
I found that was the point where I've been really, lists is something I find helps a lot. Like if I put it like Ricky in Trailer Park Boys, like, Ricky didn't learn to read. Like, won't you put a 1, 2, so that's kind of where I've been at. But I've been trying to, God, what do I take? Chris got me on them, actually. It's called
Rhodiola.
Yeah. I find that helps a lot.
I've heard it's a really good help. I
whether it's a placebo effect or not, but
no, it's a stimulant type root that a lot of people use it. I actually never even thought about it until you mentioned it, but I totally, because I'm already on a medication, but I wonder if I just took Rhodiola, it might have helped. Since we're on that topic right now, and before I forget it, because I'll end up going on a tangent and it'll just go into the ether. My opening line is good chats and life hacks. We're obviously having a good chat. I'd like to hear a life hack from you that's helped you with your staying on task or staying focused. Like, as someone else who has ADHD, what's something that you found has helped you to like really kind of
the lists? Like, honestly, it sounds so simple. And it is something that I found. It was actually my tattoo artist. Her husband has ADHD, and she mentioned to me that was something that she was doing for him, was helping a lot with chores and things. Like my girlfriend. Like, here's the perfect example. She wakes up in the morning. Like I said, she's early morning. I'm a night owl. Yeah. So she'll wake up and she's gotten ready for work, and she's getting ready. Like, she's done a workout and their smoothie and thing. And I'm like half asleep in the bed, and she'll rattle off a bunch of things. Like hell, I'm gonna remember those in the day. But like I tell her, I got a whiteboard now on the board. I'm like, write it on my board, and every day, no matter what, I remember to check the board. And it's been a very, like, a whiteboard or a list on your phone has been very helpful. And it feels, I don't know if it's that little dopamine or whatever, checking things off the list gives you such a nice. So good. And then at the end of the day, you got your list done, and you're like, fuck yeah.
Look at me go, right?
Yeah, like I'm gonna smoke some weed and play video games and not think about all the things I have to do, right?
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, I've been trying to do the list thing. My problem is like I just can't seem to like center in the time to actually sit down and do a list. I'm always thinking about everything else, but I really do have to get on that listing. I've been cold plunging, which has helped kind of.
I'm interested in that. I got a buddy in Kelowna who's wanting to do like a documentary on it. And I was asking him, I was like, I'm not like, I've never done it, but I was like, if you need a test subject, like I'll go full balls in.
Honestly,
I'm super interested.
I highly recommend it, especially if you're someone with ADHD. It really helps you to like, you start the day off with something very stressful. And you know that you've already done something hard, so the rest of it's a lot easier. Like, there's a whole scientific aspect to it, too. I heard about it on that Huberman podcast, but there's this doctor called Susanna Soberg, and she's the world-leading expert on, like, thermal therapy for people, right?
Okay.
She led the biggest study on how cold therapy can, like, help people with all sorts of things. And I guess what happens is when you get in the water, your brain tells your body to put out a whole bunch of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, right? So because it's like, oh my God, this is such a fucking terrible thing right now, right? But once you're out of it, because your body's gotten pretty much all the cortisol for the day out right there, the rest of your day is going to go a lot easier. Stressful situations don't feel nearly as stressful. As an AD who deals with like people shitting on me 24/7 when I'm at work, right? It just didn't feel as bad. Like all of a sudden I was like, I wasn't getting worked up. And like, the other thing, which is kind of neat, and I do this as someone who obviously has I'm sure you can relate to this, he has a certain lean towards stimulants. When you're out of that cold plunge, your brain will emit 2.5x the amount of dopamine as you would normally have, which is equivalent to doing a line of cocaine. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like after that, all like the rest of the day just goes a bit easier. I do it. Yeah. I do it a lot now. I've got one of those little tiny new recover things on my porch, and I'm in an apartment where you're not allowed to have like pools or hot tubs on the deck. So I just put a kiddie pool around it just to make sure if it leaks, nothing goes wrong. Right. It's definitely fucking helpful though. I think if I could get out of that cold plunge and start doing lists, I might just capitalize on everything in life after that point.
And that's the thing, man. Like I find the ADHD, that's what I love to see, because I've had this kind of idea and I love to see it, and it's seeing other people with it actually going out and do things
100%,
stokes my fire to be like, fuck yeah, I want to go out and do
like,
things.
Regardless of this podcasting, like with the company with Omnia Theater, like I'm doing like social media marketing now. I'm like helping with like all these ideas on like where we're gonna branch out and like building this community. We've got this thing coming up soon called OmniLinks, and it's like that was kind of like my brainchild. I was really stoked in that because like Ryan brought us all on with the idea of like creating this tool to help creative people out and be able to like give them the power of like an entire studio without having to sell their soul, right? And it's like, well, how are we going to get all these people involved with it? We have to create a community of some kind. Where are all the communities these days? They're online. We have to build our own online community. And like, it's almost there. And like, it's been really cool because like, now that I'm part of a team, like I always have these ideas, but I never have the know-how. Like I'm a jack of all, right? I'm not a master of software design. I don't know how to do anything. I need people who can like actually do those things. Mm-hmm. And we've got this entire team of incredibly talented people who are like really, really good at each of their crafts. And when Ryan asked me to come aboard, he's like, I need a guy. Like, oh, he's like, yeah, you're a guy. You talk to guys, right? I was like, yeah, I talk to guys. Like, be my guy. Sick, okay. And here we are. Like, it's really great. And like, it actually doesn't surprise me to hear you say that you have ADHD because you're a very, like, your conversation handling is like really, really good. Like, you have an enthusiasm about you that like comes from people who are cut from that cloth. You know?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of my buddies have it too. Like, it's funny how we kind of group and find each other almost. It's almost film brings that so much together.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's almost as if it's like more common than not having it. Like, I don't know if it's about our generation, but like, you ever notice like once you start understanding like the symptoms and like how your brain works, the minute you start talking about it, all of a sudden everyone else is like, yeah, me too.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I think now that we've, like, the diagnosis has started going, I'd say about more than half my friend group who would have never said they have are on medication or on, like, talking to or going through consultation. And we all didn't know, right? Yeah. Like I said, and it was all varying steps and levels of it, right? But like I said, I mitigated. I just smoke a shit ton of weed. I just thought that was, like, I thought everyone's brain didn't shut up when you went to bed. So you had to smoke so much dope that it would shut. Like, I thought that was, I remember being a kid. I don't know if I've ever told anyone this. I remember being as a kid. I would have this thought when I would have too many thoughts going on in my head, and I can't remember what it was made of. It was like a Yu-Gi-Oh dragon, a Digimon, a Charizard, something else. I had this mech dragon thing in my mind, and there'd be this tube with all the thoughts coming in, and this thing would have to try and stop it, and that's how I'd go. And I had no idea that I was fighting my ADHD brain, but that was my little 6-7-year-old like
dude.
mitigating it.
Wow.
But like I had no idea. Like I thought I was an insomniac. I never slept when I was a kid.
Yeah,
like,
I'd
be up to like 3-4 in the morning, and like just never knew why.
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of kids like growing up, they all used to have these nighttime routines to try and like quiet the insomnia, the voices, the constant sick cycle of like, what's happening tomorrow? What am I worried about? Like all these fucking brutal thoughts that come through. I used to do these things like I had a huge collection of like stuffed animals, like little Mario character Beanie Babies and shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd do like these actual like the voices in my head would be these little fucking stuffies, and they'd be fighting each other and stuff. It was just like, and that's kind of like I would entertain myself to get to sleep. It's wild.
Whatever. Like I look back on it now, and like they didn't know, but it's like, God damn, it's like if I had just been like for what they thought it was, even if it was just for bedtime, if I didn't allow a TV in my room, like that's my thing now. Like I just can't do the silence, even if it's a fan or something. Like
dude, clocks just drives you insane, right?
Oh, so bad.
Oh,
man. Or just like a low like hum of like the
yeah, you hear the electricity in the walls, right? Me too. My wife thinks I'm fucking crazy. she thinks I'm insane. I'm like, no, you can't hear that.
There's
like,
like,
no. Yeah. It's there's so many frequencies. Like when a phone charger is old and you start to hear that little squeal too, it's like I can't use this phone charger anymore. It's moot. Like shit, man, that's crazy. On this point. We're at the halfway point. Let's take a quick break. I could use a washroom real quick, and then we'll get on to let's move forward into your film life and stuff and talk about Greasy. Sound good?
Yeah.
I want to talk about your venture into your company, Greasy Films, though, because like you've been doing that for almost as long as I've known you, if not longer. Yeah,
pretty well coincides with my start in film. So there's two sides of it. Greasy Export is where I started with the stickers, and then leading into the T-shirts and stuff, which was kind of like. Started as like a custom kind of brand. I was doing like custom, I had some of my own designs and stuff. And then that's kind of growing more so into a brand. I'm kind of branching away from the custom stuff. Like if I got buddies and stuff that I'll still do for 100%. Problem with the custom stuff, and you guys know this in film, is clients suck. 80% of the time, they suck. Yeah. You just don't want to deal with it. So it's like, if it's something I'm passionate about, I'll do it. But so many of these, it's just like, I don't know. So then I had that going, and then I got into film. And then my second show ever, actually, the Christmas Star in Kelowna, friend of ours growing up, they have a TV show, the Mud Mountain Haulers, like loggers in Kamloops, the LeBeau Bros logging company. Well, I grew up with their daughter. So she gave me a hat, and it was the same, my logo. It was the Pornhub logo, but it said LeBeau Bros.
Oh, by the way, anyone watching, this is one of the beautiful pieces you can get on his website.
Greasy Film Gear.
Greasy Film Gear.
Instagram and Facebook.
Gripping ain't easy, baby.
So yeah, I showed up with the LeBeau Bros hat, and my key grip looked at me and it was like, "Oh my God, man, like that's awesome. That's so funny." He's like, "We all need those." And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wear this like logging company hat, And I just got the T-shirt press, and I was like, "Oh, I know what I'll do." Typed in Grippin, and I found the logo and made it up. And the first day I did a couple T-shirts, and they just gone. Like I pulled them out on set, and all the T-shirts were gone. And I went home the next weekend, the same thing. All the T-shirts are gone. By the end of that show, I was like, "Well, I need to get some hats done, man." So I think the first run was, I want to say 10. Same thing, sold out first day on set. Second run was 25. Took about 2 weeks, and now I think. This last batch, we're coming up around over 250 of those things out there in the world.
Wow. Hey, good for you, man.
Yeah, so it's been a wild ride. Like it came out of, like I said, where I wanted to go with Greasy Export and the clothing and the design and stuff. And even like I never thought of the film, but also I like it when I see a niche or something in that, I'll run with it, right? Like it's the same thing with kind of predating this, the guy that got me into the stickers, we actually met doing doors, and kind of predating like the memes and all the stuff I did. The first thing I did with him is we created this social media thing called the Door Guy Mafia.
Door Guy Mafia.
Which is, so door guys, it's a weird trade that you've probably never heard of, but it is the most close-knit, tight community in the world in any sort of facet of trades. I've been an electrician, HVAC guy, concrete, epoxy, like all over the map in trades. No one is tighter than the door guy community. It
Really?
is wild.
What?
I would literally, so we started this Facebook group or like an Instagram kind of social media thing. We started doing posts and like showing, like we'd shout out people's work. Well, over the course of about 6 months, this grows into I'm in the lineup at McDonald's on the phone with a guy in Illinois walking him through how to put together an operator. Like we would literally have these meetings. We had guys from friggin' like as far as New York. I was talking to a guy in Russia and translating back and forth in Russian. I got a buddy in Sweden that I Snapchat all the time that were all door guys who just loved talking to other door guys, being a part of the door guy mafia. But this is where a lot of like the memes and the social media and shit. And then that's my buddy, how the whole sticker, and actually I go back, this is really the origin story of Greasy, is my girlfriend's friend had a Cricut, which is the machine that cuts out the stickers, and we hired her to make us the very first original door guy mafia stickers, which was this dope like old English design that I had done up.
Cool.
Well, she was new at it too, but she took so long to get us the stickers. By the time we got them from her, my buddy had gotten pissed off and we just bought our own Cricut. And then he started making them for us. And that's why I forgot when he moved away down here, that's when I ended up buying mine, which then spiraled. And like I said, and then that I did the stickers for about a year. And then that was getting good. And then I bought the heat press to be able to do the shirts and stuff like this here.
Yeah.
And then
so you make them yourself in-house?
Yeah. This is all pressed by me.
You can take the headset off if you want.
Now I'm just wrecking the place. Jesus.
So where do you get your shirts from? You just from a factory somewhere?
All about Imprint in Kamloops.
Really?
So they're a local, again, went in there for a buddy's hoodie, right around the same, that 2019 when it all, everything kind of started to snowball. They did good, and then I was doing my own stuff, and I was getting, what's the brand? Gildan, which is just your regular, everyone knows. Well, I'm just going to say it, Gildan's crap now. They've gotten too big, and the quality of their stuff, like they used to be the staples, but a bunch of guys from Gildan left, and they started ATC, which is the Authentic T-shirt company, Canadian-owned, 100% union workers, or no, sorry, not... 100% union workers, no labor camps, no sweatshops, anything, all made in Canada, and super nice stuff. All my stuff's ATC.
What's the pricing like versus something like Shopify? So I guess your margin's got to be a little bit smaller.
My margin's a little bit smaller, but we can definitely talk like.
Cool.
I don't want to toss around numbers on air, but for sure. Like we can hook it up. I get good deals. Like my wholesaler now, I've been, like I said, I do a lot of it in house, but I'm branching out. Like the hats, obviously, I get done through them and stuff. I don't have the embroidery machine.
Yeah, because it's the embroidering on that is stellar, man.
Yeah, no, I get these professionally done. Yeah.
Wicked. Very cool.
But yeah, like I've been kind of branching into getting more stuff kind of done through them. Like it's fun. Like I said, I'll still do one-off stuff. Like a lot of these I hand press myself, but if I'm doing like a batch of 50, I'm just not at the point where if the $2 I'm saving a shirt to do it myself, whereas I just spend it to get it through someone else. Like I'm kind of trying to branch away because like, it was great when I started, right? Because it was such an electric feeling of the entrepreneurial going from a 9-to-5 job for so many years and struggling, especially in electrical, coming in, I started out in the oil field, big money, which maybe wasn't the best thing at the start, but coming through, a lot of my jobs were good based on the overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way I was making good money is if I was working overtime, which is fine. I don't mind overtime. I work in film now, so a 60-hour week is just regular.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
So 50, 55 back then wasn't that bad. But the problem was when there was no overtime and I was confined to that 40 hours, I felt so trapped. There was nothing, like if I wasn't getting the work at my job, that I needed to make the money, I couldn't make the money. There was no way I could get that extra bucks. I couldn't go out and get this idea.
You had no
like
alternative source of income.
Of the mercenary mindset of being able to go. It was like, I can't leave this job because then I don't have a check in 2 weeks and I'm living check to check. There was none of this, whereas now I get up every single day and I think about what dollars I'm making that day. There's no check coming in the mail. It's what are my bills? What are my next bills?
Yeah.
Cover the next 2 weeks and worry about 2 weeks, just bill by bill by bill. But it's stressful, but beyond freeing. As soon as I broke out of that 9-to-5 mindset, the first weekend I remember I got my Cricut. I was behind on rent. I needed $300. And this, you can't do this now. It got flooded. They sell them at Walmart. Like when I first started 2020, 2021, make a post on Facebook. I'd pull $400 in a weekend selling $2-3 stickers.
Wicked.
And like that was electric. That was the most, that first time when it was like I paid my rent, got a case of beer and a pack of smokes, and came home with a girlfriend and gave her the $20 I owed her, and still had $20 cash in my wallet after like 2 days before I was at work, like in the boss's office, like, you got to give me some overtime, man. Or like, I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like, you know what, I'm going to go. And then like that just sparked a fire in me. It was like the best drug I've ever had was like, I just pulled money out of my ass. Like I just felt like whoosh, that's $300. Cool. I just made some sticker, and then it just kind of kept the ball rolling into branching out into whatever I can get into, right? So like the hats, and then as soon as I saw the niche with the film started to take off, I was like, oh my God, I got to really nail this down. And because there's not very many people doing this in the industry. And it's also, like I always like to say, we're a great industry. Well, last year aside, we're a great industry to sell to because we're usually making good money.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Like everyone does the $5 Fridays and shit. Like there's people have money in that industry. It's a lot easier to like be able to say like, hey, if you want to buy some shirts, I'm a local dude. Fucking help me out here, right? That's really cool, man. So like then like I'm assuming the Greasy, it's got some Trailer Park Boys inspiration there for sure.
So we talked about Tarantino.
Yeah.
My two other biggest inspirations for me as my career in film are Will Ferrell and, of course, the Trailer Park Boys. Now, we'll get into Will in a second and why him and Adam McKay are so important to me, but the Trailer Park Boys, it's not just about that it's the Trailer Park Boys and they're funny and it's East Coast and shit. The Trailer Park Boys, for me, and this what people really need to realize, is a Canadian fucking legend of media.
100%.
It does not deserve it does not get the credit that it deserves. There is nothing, I don't think, on the level of maple syrup and the goddamn beaver that is as irreplaceably recognizably Canadian across the world. I've been to Ireland, I've been to Australia, and people know the Trailer Park Boys and love it. And the part that just warms my heart, and this really was a big thing about me being a bumpkin from friggin' Kamloops thinking I could get into this whole film industry, was those were four jackasses from a trailer park in friggin' Sunnyvale, Nova Scotia, who got a camera, threw together a show, and were able to not only get it on Showtime, turn that into 7 seasons of TV, turn around, buy their own company, make a massive comeback, sell a deal to Netflix when Netflix was first handing out big deals, and now they've turned around into more movies. They got another show on Crave. Like when they got left in the dust by Showtime, the fact that they all together, and it just proved Mike Clattenburg in the first place being able to pull that off. Seasons 1 to 7 was amazing, and that's the thing in Canadian Anna that became so famous. But the fact that Rob Wells, John Paul Tremblay, and Mike Smith, so Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles, went back and bought it, started their own network, and it continued that on. And like, you could say their stuff's not as good as it used to be, but they're still relevant. They're still doing stuff nonstop.
They lived in that trailer park that they filmed it in? I didn't know that.
Coming back to Signs, funny, weird Kamloops thing. A guy that I worked with in the Signs grew up in the Sunnyvale trailer park. His best friend was Corey.
No
Corey
way. Really?
Photos and everything. So there was a real trailer park supervisor named Randy Fahey. Now, Randy Fahey was a unbelievably crazy drunk who drove around in a shipmobile that he had rolled off a thing and had the top ripped off and would show up
like in the
wasted in the trailer park and be like, you guys need to get in the fucking car, clean up this thing. And he'd pile a bunch of kids in his shitmobile driving wasted around the trailer park. Legit, like I said, there's so much of stuff. That's what people don't realize, because around season 3 and 4, when they get in the little wall and the big dope farms and stuff, they get a little bit more embellished. But people don't realize about seasons 1 and 2 is that was the East Coast, man. I got buddies who grew up out there. Like, I know Shane who grew up in the trailer park. Everyone had guns. Nobody friggin' worked. Let's think, like he said, Ray, like Ricky's dad with the whole chair and like faking the disability. He said that was based off like his dad and shit,
Really?
Like, oh yeah,
That's
but it was
amazing.
The first 2 seasons were very true, honest to God, almost more documentary than mockumentary. They were just a little bit scripted, and obviously it gets way wackier. But those first 2 seasons, that's a snapshot of what small town East Coast is like, because they get all the guns from Detroit. They're so close to the States.
Yeah.
Everyone sells weed. There's no jobs out there. So, like, everyone's just living on disability and stuff. Like, it's wild, man.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
And it's a cool thing. So they actually shot, I think it's seasons 1 and 2 in the trailer park. Then 3, they bought the trailer park, and that's why they built the wall and everything. But it's interesting about 1 and 2, it was like a Reddit post or something years ago, is that it was such a low budget show. So I think it's in season 2, Bubbles is doing something, or Ricky's doing something with Leahy, and he rips down Leahy's screen door and like busts it in half.
Yeah.
Well, the guy was talking about he used to work at the hardware store down from the Sunnyvale trailer park, and Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles would have to come in and like buy the stuff themselves because whatever they broke, it was somebody's trailer they were shooting in. It wasn't like their set, so they'd have to go back and fix Mary Smith's door after they ripped it off for the scene where he's fighting Leahy, because it's supposed to be Leahy's trailer, right? Like, it was so low budget, and then to see where those guys go, like, that just... It proved to me that even if it is like small town, dumb, like anyone can do it. Anyone can make it. If those guys can be international superstars for being the goddamn trailer park boys, like...
Well, fuck, if The Room still has a following, right? Like,
exactly,
the trailer park
man.
for sure. That's awesome. I had no idea. That makes it so much more inspirational, too. And the guy who played Leahy, if I recall, like, he was actually a really good actor,
like,
too.
phenomenal, like, classically trained.
Like, they'd say
like,
action, and he'd just immediately be wasted.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And he didn't drink at all. He, like, in real life, didn't drink at all. That's all acting. And like a lot of his stuff too, when he's talking about the shit abyss and stuff. That's all it's not the Odyssey, but it's like some famous like literature that he's quoting, but he's throwing shit in front of everything. My buddy pointed out, I'm like, no way. And he showed him, like, oh my God, like Leahy's, I can't remember, it's like friggin' like Homer or something, like some Greek philosopher he's quoting.
Really?
But it's all, he just puts shit in front of it. But the abyss is all something, Plato, I think is what it is, right? And there's lots, you go through Leahy's shit, and a lot of the stuff he's saying is this like deep literary shit. But he's just throwing shit in front of everything.
That's so great, man. Like, it's funny actually, because when I saw Randy, like his, Renderbo Banders, like fucking
Cheeseburger Picnic at the Blue Grotto.
Yeah. Like he, with him with his shirt off and everything, like, and the way his hair was done, I was like, that's my dad. Like, sorry, Dad, I love you, but like for real, man, like the fucking beer gut and everything, and like just. It was just so great. I was like, oh my God, this guy. And he's just like addicted to cheeseburgers. Like literally addicted to cheeseburgers too. It's not even like a what is it? Like a trope. It's like that was his thing. He was hooked on cheeseburgers.
Oh yeah.
There's so many timeless characters in that. Like J-Rock.
Oh, so good, man.
Yeah.
That's absolutely one of my favorites is Countdown to Liquor Day. When Julian opens Success Auto Body and they're having the thing, and J-Rock's out in front of the thing, and he's rapping, but nobody's showing up to their grand opening, and J-Rock's just rapping the whole time. Come on, can't not be feeling this. Can't not be feeling this. And at the end, everyone's coming. Come on. And then Bubbles walks out. It's one of my favorites. J-Rock, I was feeling it. It's just like he's so sad and there's no one around him. J-Rock, I was feeling it.
And they ended up pulling in some pretty big names on that show too. Like Snoop Dogg was like a recurring character on there, and like
Tom Arnold in the later seasons. Yeah. But even in the early ones, man, like the whole thing with Rush was so well done.
Yeah.
Friggin', when he kidnaps Alex Lyson.
Yeah, he kidnaps guitars from Rush.
I just went to the store and I borrowed him for a bit. He's like, Ricky, you can't borrow people. And they were such good sports for that. And when they're doing the dope farms, they kidnap Rita McNeil and her band. Like, there's just such good little Canadiana in there. Right?
Man, absolutely.
Like, Ricky, you're making Rita McNeil and her band harvest dope at gunpoint. You think it'd be a little bit goddamn nicer? And they're all singing in the field as they're harvesting dope.
Yeah. I gotta watch that show again, man. That's like, I watched, like, I always caught it in the first like few seasons when I was younger, and then like I heard about it blowing up, so I went back and I watched, like, I think it was season 5 through, and then 6, and then like I just fell off of it. But like I always, whenever I saw it on, I'd always tune in, and it was always
it's honestly good, if you haven't given it, it's really worth. And there's one of those funny things where a lot of what I take a lot of my moral, because film's always, like I said, movies always in, even before I wanted to get into it, a big part of my life. One of my earliest memories as a kid, one of the earliest facts I remember committing to memory of, like, this is a factual thing, is remembering that when I watched Star Wars, Darth Vader is actually Luke Skywalker's dad. Like, that was, like, I remember being, like, 4, and, like, being, like, that was a fact I had to remember of something that I knew, right? God damn it, deficit. Star Wars.
Going on the tangent. What was it related to when you were younger as a kid? Like does it relate to the Trailer Park Boys or something?
Trailer Park Boys.
Okay.
Everything I've learned from film, and a bigger thing overall with Trailer Park Boys, which is a note I think that gets overlooked. Yes, it's a greasy trailer park and it's a goofy show and they're drunk and shit, but what is Trailer Park Boys really about?
Community. Family,
And it's not about the family that you're given, it's about the family that you make. Look at Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles. The whole thing is them being the biggest pieces of shit, and poor goddamn Bubbles just trying to roll with the punches with those guys, and he loves them so much, though, and they do love, it's family.
Yeah.
It's taking care of, it's making the best with what you got.
You can see one of those Trailer Park Boys in every one of your friends. Every time.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, I definitely have a couple Rickies and Julians in my friend group, for sure. I think I might be the Bubbles, honestly. Like,
and that's where Ricky Randy comes from, too.
Yeah? That's awesome,
so Ricky,
man.
I don't have anything to show them. So Ricky Randy is, you see my beaver, the beaver logo. That's Ricky Randy, the greasy BC beaver.
The greasy BC beaver. Man, you got all the pitch lines. That's awesome, dude. That's so good.
Yeah, so my sister draws him, so he's kind of become, which is actually awesome now. I'll announce this. So he's kind of become, I pitched him my sister as, this is our Mickey Mouse. Ricky Randy will be the face of Greasy. He will be everything.
He's your mascot.
I've got him, I got him in an Easter outfit, Christmas. God, what was the one she just did? She did Barbie and Oppenheimer for me. I've got him dressed up as like Robert Riendo that we worked with. I got a Ricky Randy where he's got Robert's hat and his gaffer glass on.
Really?
He's Robert Riendo.
Oh my
Ricky
God.
Roberts.
That's so cool, man.
So, speaking of him being my Mickey Mouse, the copyright came off of Steamboat Willie. So I got my sister to draw Steamboat Randy, which is Ricky Randy as Steamboat Willie, and he looks great. So I'm getting those made because now I own the copyright to that, and Disney can't say shit. I'm getting sweaters made with that on the back, and in Disney font, it just says, "Eat your heart out, Walt."
I can't wait. I'm going to buy one of those for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
That's awesome, man.
Holy shit. He just kind of became, and that's where, like I said, it started as custom, but I'd like to kind of steer it towards, like, I want Ricky Randy to be, like, my brand, right? And that's the Ricky Randy's greasy film gear, and, like, you know, it was a funny thing on set, because he's always been the beaver. Robert was actually the one who said it. Somebody was asking me, like, who's Ricky Randy? And I was like, oh, it's the beaver. And Robert just, no, he's like, you are Ricky Randy.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I guess I am, you know? And that's, like, even with our story hive, too, like, I've been very, like, with the credits, like, you know, directed by and produced, making sure everyone has their credits. But that's the one thing that, like, I've been literally putting on there is cinematography by Ricky Randy.
Cinematography.
I've been the DOP, and it's learn lots. Robert say learn lots.
Yeah.
It's been the lighting and stuff, like, just coming from the grip end of things and being, like, out there. I'm like, oh, yeah, the sun's blowing us. Can we bring in that? Oh, no, there's no 12 by 12. It's me and Chris. It's like, maybe I pull a piece of paper off his face. Oh, I got to pull the focus too. Damn it.
Yeah, dude, learning the lighting's definitely that's something that, like, it takes a while. Like, when we did our first performance in here, some of our first artists, I had no idea that you needed a key light. Right, so I was just like, "Oh, dude, this deep red looks really cool. Let's just leave the room dark." And then you look at the post; it's just like grainy as hell, like just constant visual noise. And like now we learned we can't have the room entirely dark with just colored lights now. But fuck, dude, I'm just so glad we have the technology nowadays to do like upscaling and denoising. Because
so crazy to think, even like 15 years back to when I started playing around with Windows Movie Maker on my mom's computer to like what we can do now, like what my phone does now to compare to
it's insane.
Even we wouldn't be shooting what we've shot in Clone or how we met in Kamloops if there wasn't the level of digital. Like they wouldn't make the Hallmarks and these CMWs and these real ones at the scale and the speed that they were if we couldn't do 15 takes, if we couldn't hire a director who it's their first time shooting a movie and they haven't done anything other than a short, you know, like I've worked with lots of, no offense against them, but
Yeah.
a lot of first-time directors
Yeah.
who are just feeling their way through
They're
one
just
of
winging
these,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
They'll take like a Robert or someone and pair them up with this new-time director. So you got your OG DOP who's going to keep them rolling through
At
the
least it'll
punches,
look
and they'll
nice.
get through it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like the fact that we have like 4K cameras on his fucking cell phone now is just insane. And honestly, like going through that whole Kamloops chapter too, I'd love to go back and do some more work out there. I hope they get some more stuff coming in.
we're
soon.
working on it.
Cool. That'd be good.
CJ's trying to get a horror for maybe reach out to her soonish.
Well,
She's like in the next little bit.
Yeah, I know the guy who's doing that. He
Okay,
reached out to me
nice.
and I was like, "Have you tried CJ yet?" And like, it sounds like I'd love to come down and try that. It's just like, but seeing these people come onto these shows as like first time directors who've never actually directed a show before, so you're like, "Wait, I could do that." It's like it gives you hope,
Well, here's the funny thing. So that's my end game. My big end game is I want to direct. That's always kind of been where I've wanted to go with this. That being said, got into it thinking I was going to be a Jenny Op. Then I got into gripping thinking I'd never want to be a dolly grip. Ended up dolly gripping, loving it. Thinking I'd never be a key grip. Ended up keying, love that too. Then the strike hit and I was, camera trainee, set deck, PA, props assistant, background. What was the last one I did?
When you have a low budget, you do it all.
It was one of those never say never, right?
Yeah.
So it was just like you got to roll with the punches and just.
What did you think you were gonna do when you first got into film? What was your thing? I know you said your end game is directing, but did you always want to be a director, or was it like?
When I first getting into like the idea of film, I always wanted to be a director. When I thought I was gonna career-wise get into film in the last 5 years because of my electrical background, I thought of Jenny Op, and that was always like I heard they make the most money, and at that point, I was just happy to be doing anything remotely close to film, right? Like I'd been so many on the fringe. When I lived down here, I worked for like a tenting company. We did Kelly's Tents. We'd set up the so we did Lucifer and the 100. So we were always like, they're way before you guys were there or way before but it was the closest I'd been. So
those
I kind
tent
of
companies, man,
around.
they work the long hours for sure. The weird
worst.
ones.
It was, that's a whole other tangent.
They should really unionize with us, hop on to IATSE or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man. Like, where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years with all this? Like, if everything goes on board, do you want do you have a
here's my so I got a really good buddy, and actually getting back to a Star Wars reference, I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so I'm a very grateful for the people I've met on my path in film. And I try and take as much as there because it's so easy to just get out of the gate and be like, I want to direct, I want to shoot, start doing shorts, blah, 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 and get right out the gate, right? And there's especially being an ADHD brain who can very easily roll with the punches and where it was like, oh, your grip, like you want to come do camera? I love camera. I want to come do props? Props was great, and it's like every time I'm thinking I'm getting pulled in another direction. But Robert is who I call my Yoda.
Cool.
He speaks in riddles, but he's super smart.
Is he back in the West Coast? I thought he went out to the Ontario.
He's been bounced. He's been back.
Cool.
Robert's my Yoda. He calls me Brody Want, but I got my buddy Caleb. Who's my Qui-Gon.
Oh my God, that's wicked.
And my Qui-Gon, because he's like, because he's been so good. And one of the things that he very instilled in me, like right at the start, he's like, everyone wants to run out of the gate, and he's like, you need to think about your 10-year plan. Where's your 10 years? He's like, you want to be a director? That's 40. You're 30 right now. He's like, don't think about that till 40. So he's like, where are your next? He's like, you're a dolly grip. You want to spend your next 5 years on dolly. Then when you get your dolly grip, 5 years on dolly, start moving into operating. Do a year operating, buy a steady cam. Buy the steady cam, you start steady camming. By the next thing, DOP a couple shows, by 40-year director. So I like the way that he thinks about it in that. And like he's right now in Florida doing his scuba diving courses because his goal is to be one of the only, I think there's 20 in the world, and he said most of them are women because he's kind of this like, I want to be the dude.
Yeah.
Underwater camera assistants.
Wow.
And he's going to get all his scuba certification right now because it's I can't remember what the price is, but it's
anything. It's funny. There's so many trades where like if you add scuba to it, it's like 10x in pay.
Oh yeah.
I got a buddy who's training to be an underwater rigger right now for LX to rig all the power lines through it. It's fucking huge money. Yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah. Pulling power lines underwater like that, it's just crazy. He's got a scuba certification now. He's just like getting his film electrician certificate, and then he's good to go. But that's big pay right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you got welders, then you got underwater welders. And those, like, you remember growing up, everyone would be like, oh, we'll be
That
underwater.
was always
yeah.
the thing. Like, I'm going to make $250 an hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to school and be an underwater welder. That was
Yeah.
everyone's career choice. You didn't know. It was, I'm going to be an underwater welder.
Well, they don't tell you is like to be an underwater welder, you also have to sit in a decompression chamber for like 3 days before your job or whatever, or after, just so you don't get the bends and die. Like, it's just
yeah, there's so
wild,
much
man.
logistics behind it, but
That's crazy.
yeah, that's where, like I said, I look at it as a longevity thing. So and that's the thing too. We're leading into the year of the strike. I had all these big plans to come down to Vancouver and get my IA days and all this stuff, and the strike threw a wrench right in that. But that led to me, like I said, getting to be a camera trainee, which was I never would have done, which was an awesome experience. My first actual like big, decent, like $3 million key grip show, which was awesome, like techno crane, friggin' car rigs, like a bunch of legit stuff with like a decent DOP out of LA, which again, probably wouldn't have been able to do. So every time that I think that I've had a plan or it's going to go a certain way,
Curveball.
it's been an absolute curveball. But the thing too, the bigger picture is I've just kind of learned to give myself to the flow, because every time I've been mad about missing out on one opportunity for whatever, I don't know if it's karma or just sheer horseshoes up my ass or what, it seems to work out for something better. Like example, not this past summer, but the summer before, I was working for CMW, dolly gripping, got an offer to do something mixed up with the show. He didn't like that I was going to leave the show after and ended up firing me when I thought I had a gig. Freaked out, didn't know I have any money, blah, blah, blah.
Boo, whoever you are, boo.
We're friends now, but it ended up.
Oh, okay, maybe not boo. Boo. I rescind that boo.
But it ended up being we kind of like, I was real pissed about it at the time or whatever, and I was freaking out about work, and then I was sitting there, and then again, my buddy, the same buddy who originally called me for the first call, called me up. I was like, hey man, like fuck, what are you on right now? Like, are you doing anything? Like, can I come day call? Like, I can come down to Van. Like, I'll be there tomorrow. And he goes, actually, he's like, I'm not. And he's like, wait a minute, 1 second. Can we call you back? He calls me back. He's like, how soon can you be here? I'm like, tomorrow, like right now. I'll get in the car right now. He's like, you want to come work on Shogun? I'm like,
dude, I watched that show. It's so good. So good.
So we were one of 3 200-man crews just shooting the commercial. This is my first time on a real IA set. And I'm walking in. This is my buddy who's been like an IA dolly grip. He's a dolly on Virgin River for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Is that Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
you know Adam.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
What am I thinking?
Shouts out Adam Hunt.
Oh, what a guy.
Yeah. I'm trying to, my focus is on people and their professions and stuff, right? And like their lives. So like, I'm trying to keep it like, I want to keep it diverse. And I haven't had too many film people on, especially not one who is like entrepreneurially charged like yourself or on the same spectrum of ADHD wackiness as I am. So that's really cool, man. So like, with like, you get on to Shogun, can I just ask you, like, were the samurai outfits, did you see any of those, like the real samurai armor and stuff?
I got to go into, so this is it. This is Adam calls me, and I show up on set, and Adam just looks at me and goes, fuck you. And I'm like, what? What did I do? And he's like, no, seriously, fuck you. I'm like, what? He's like, I've been working in IA for 7 goddamn years. 7 years. You show up on your first set, you're going to show up on something regular and be like, this is garbage. Where the fuck? You didn't have this on Shogun. Because Adam was like, this is the most insane thing I have ever seen in my entire career, and this is your first day on an IA set. So you walk into Mammoth Studios after my COVID shots, and I was swabs.
Yeah.
And
the swabs were so annoying.
On my right is about a 80-foot dirt mound, and on top of that is the main actor on top of a horse in full samurai garb. At the bottom is a techno crane, and the boys are sweeping up the techno crane. So the techno crane comes up the mountain just as his horse trops up, and as the camera comes up to here and lands at his face, he sticks out his arm, and the ladder I'm holding for the falconer sends a falcon as he sticks out his arm, and the falcon lands. So I'm standing there holding the ladder for the falconer chick as this is going on, and that's just one quarter. Outside of, to my left, that's on my right, to my left is what only can be described as what looks like the most massive hydraulic system of pistons and thing you've ever seen. And I'm going like, what the hell is that? And it's called these things. And they go, oh, so they built a full Japanese like time period galley that's in the Bay of Port Moody. this is the inside of the ship, so that when they shoot inside, they can slosh them around. And we're talking a full-sized inside of a friggin' galley hooked up to these motorized rams.
So it's moving
like the ocean.
That's so sick.
Then, that's just the first entrance. Then you go back into one of just this bay of the studio, massive, like walking into Jade Temple, Kung Fu Panda, full-on Japanese pagoda. Like you can walk through everything, the sliding doors, everything, down to a T, dusted with snow and everything.
Wow.
That's one of this side of the stage.
Yeah, because Mammoth Studios is huge.
And then you go down this way, and there's like 5 more of these massive temples inside Mammoth Studios. I'm like talking 3 stories. Every single room is outfitted, set decked, everything.
That's so great, man. I remember when they were talking about that place being built. It's like one of the largest studio blocks in the world, right?
It's insane. Like
do they actually have like modular floors? Like, do the floors rise and like?
I was just there for a day. Like we did the commercial shoot, so it wasn't like the full. We did that, and then we did the fishing village up in, I think, around here.
Squamish area or what?
Oh, I think it's up in Port Mood. It's by a gun range, kind of Maple Ridge-ish.
Oh, yeah. Out in like in the Westwood area, like up behind Coquitlam and stuff like that. Yeah. There's a sweet golf course out there. Ryan and I go there. You're in Port Moody right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is Port Moody. Like, if you drive down the road, you'll probably be able to see wherever they had that boat. Like, that's super cool, man.
It was like I said, it was absolutely insane to see the levels. I think somebody told me it was $10,000 being spent every 6 minutes.
Yep. Sounds about right. Have you seen that show yet? Have you watched it?
I just watched the trailer. I haven't actually because I want to sit down and actually give it the time. But I've heard like people are calling it like the new Game of Thrones.
It's so cool, and like the era they set it in, it's like when Portugal was first trying to settle and colonize Japan and stuff, right? And it is just
it's a super interesting time period. That whole feudal Japan thing just has its whole.
The costume design is like nothing about that show. I cannot find a single thing I don't like it, and I'm on episode 6 now, and it's just. It's so cool. And the actors, man, like the guy who plays like the main antagonist, he's the guy who plays the main scientist dude in Godzilla. He's in that show called Tokyo Vice on HBO, and he's just seeing all these guys.
He's like the best. Sorry to cut you off, but he's the best that Japanese guy that could ever be. Bullet Train. He's the guy in Bullet Train too, and like.
Just like there's such an immense load of talent on that show. Like it's almost like they brought like I wish I knew the names of all these actors because I've seen them all in so many prominent roles, and like you see like them on all ends of like the hero and villain spectrum, and it's like fuck, dude, like this is like the Japanese all-star cast right here. Like this is like it's just insane. It's so cool. Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for you, but you should definitely check it out. Especially if you worked on it. That's
on my list. Yeah, for sure.
But Mammoth Studios, that must have been just insane.
It's wild, man. It was the most, like I said, it was the top of the mountain for me in terms of like getting, because you get into film and like there's a magic, and that's what I always tell people. And my buddy Adam too, when I was not working in film and I was down here and he would just have like a shit day on set, and he's like, these assholes are blah 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 and this, and I'd grab him and and it's funny because I had to be that to him, and I so catch myself getting that little bit, because you do enough of these MOWs or shit you don't want to see, and you just get a little jaded. The film industry can do that to you. You turn into one of those old grips on set, and I used to grab Adam and I'd grab him and look at me right now. You're telling me that you were on the set of goddamn Yellow Jackets today and you're pissed off because your key grip yelled at you. Yeah? You know where I was? Freaking some asshole's basement and freaking 2 feet of concrete sweating my dick off because the other foreman got too drunk, and you know what? Nobody cares about what his basement's like. I like Yellow Jackets. And yeah, you're right. And like, man, you got to remember. And like I said, I'm bad too. I got to remember, you got to keep the magic. Like what we do here, it's
magic.
The
it really
craziest, most amazing industry. I got a good story of this. So a buddy of mine working on Deadpool 2. Same thing. He's kind of getting caught up in the IA mundane thing. They said they're doing the kind of on his left, they're doing this big stunt, and he's walking along. He's kind of got his head down, and somebody grabs him and goes, hey, man. He's like, I see you around here all the time. He's like, why are you so down? He's like, this is the coolest fucking job in the world, man. Like, look what we're doing right now. Look at this.
Yeah.
He goes like this, and they're doing this big, and he stops. He's like, I stop what I'm doing. And I look up. Buddy gets thrown off the pill in this big stunt. The guy goes, yeah, man. Like, see? He's like, then I turn to realize who I'm talking to. Fucking Ryan Reynolds.
That's why he had his head down like
Yeah,
that?
buddy was walking. He just wasn't even paying attention. He just come and then he grabbed him, and then he looked before he realized he was talking to him. And he goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." And he looks over, and it's Ryan Reynolds being like, "Look, man, like look where you are." And he's like that because like that kind of woke me up. I was like, "No shit, man." But it's like you can't lose the magic, and especially even with doing the Hallmarks and the Christmas stuff. There's just something that. It may not be your favorite movie. It may not be 80% of the population's, 95%.
But for any Midwestern housewife, when their kids are off at school.
I was in Edmonton.
Yep.
Shooting the lowest budget. Oh God, I got a good. There's a couple things with this. We can get into the story, but shooting the lowest budget, most indie Hallmark I have ever made. Key grip, dolly grip, transport driver, set decorator, Jenny op, and assistant gaffer. Oh, and the lamp op too, because we didn't have those. We just had a gaffer.
Wicked.
So like one of those, and like driving the transport truck with the grip gear, with our like putt generators and shit. So we shoot the first week, and we're not even in Edmonton. We're in Beaumont. For people who don't know, so there's Edmonton, kind of like the same way there's like Langley and Abbotsford. But anyone who's not in Vancouver, we all go, that's Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Beaumont and Leduc are part of Edmonton, but they're two little like summer. Leduc's like 40,000 and Beaumont's like 8,000 or something. Just the little highway towns in Alberta. So we're shooting this show there. And I go to the outlet mall on the weekend or whatever. I'm wandering around. It's like 9 a.m. There's no one in there. I'm looking at some shoes. And the lady comes out to me and goes, "Oh, hey, like, what are you doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm from out of town. We're in here shooting a movie." She's like, "Oh, in Edmonton?" I'm like, "No, actually, we're shooting it in Beaumont." She's like, "Oh, my God. Like, what is it?"
They're so stoked when they hear that, yeah.
Dude. She's like, "Oh, my God, what is it?" I'm like, "God, it's just like a little Christmas Hallmark thing." This lady starts bawling her eyes out.
Really?
Like literally to the point where I'm kind of like, duh, and like start like doing the like, does she want like a hug? And she's like, "Oh my God, like I just want to thank you so much. Like I'm sorry to get emotional, but my husband just passed away 6 months ago and like really sick when he was in the hospital. Like I really loved these movies and he did too. So that was like our thing to like watch them together. And like maybe not everyone loves them, but I just want to thank you so much. You guys are," and I was just like, just laid like I'm holding her in the friggin' sport check and she's crying and I'm just like, oh my God. And I went back to work the next day. I was like, "Everyone, kiss your goddamn chins up. We're out here doing God's work, okay?" Martha at Sport Check, this is her shit, okay? This is for Martha. You know, but it was a really silver, because my mom and my sister watched these, but they know they treat them like throwaway, but she was so genuinely, like, the way I talk about the new Dune, or like, in like Terrence, like, something that I love. But it was the Hallmark, and it was like, you know what? These matter to someone.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, I even catch myself doing that a lot, because, like, my entire AD experience has been, like, mostly just Hallmark Land. Especially as a third AD. It was the way I got to, like, skip the whole, like, training step, honestly.
Oh, it's easy.
And Michael Johansson was, like, just, like, the biggest help.
Shout out, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Shouts out to Mike. You are a top G, for sure. He, like, not in the Undertale way. That guy is a creep. But, like, in, like, the real, like, he's a G. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, people ask me, like, when I'm working in film, and, like, when I tell them I'm working in film, like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm an assistant director." Like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, you work on any big things?" I'm like, "Well, I'm mostly working in Hallmark Land right now." And more often than not, they'll be like, "I love Hallmark. I watch Hallmark all the time." It's like,
it's more prevalent than you think it is,
Yeah,
right? It's just we get so jaded being on set in film. We're like, nobody watches. Well, it's like they're more common than you're not. There's a reason they pump out 100 every year.
Yeah.
Like whatever genre of film creates that much content every year. No one steps up. Maybe anime. But like
maybe anime, but like
they're drawing that,
and they've got this system down, man. 15 days of shooting, and it's like edited and on the network within 3 months. You know, it's like fast, it's efficient, and like it gives people an access point. You know, it really does. For me, like coming out here, I went immediately into like bigger union shows as a PA, and I saw all this big stuff. I was like, wow. And then when I finally worked on some of my first Hallmarks, I was like, meh. But one thing I really appreciated about it was like everyone in Hallmark Land loves their job still. You don't find people who are jaded, because they're like, more often than not, it's the first real big kind of like shift in their career where they're working in film. Or if there are any like guys who are like seasoned, they've had their time in Union Land, and they're
there to make a jump.
Yeah, and like with Mike Johansson, for example, he worked out here in like the bigger stuff for a long time, and he does the Hallmarks because like it's a good schedule, and the people who you work with are still good to work with. And honestly, like, there's something to be said about a person who goes into that world also with the intention of being a good mentor. You know, you find some incredible, like you were talking about Robert Rindo, right? Mike, same way. Like when I was doing my first third AD thing, I'd never done a single third AD course. Be in the trailer, they'd wrap set, right? You guys would be up there wrapping out. Mike just takes off, right? Because he's first AD, he can just leave. He didn't go home. He came to my trailer and he'd sit with me and make sure my paperwork's done right. He would guide me through everything.
Dude, Mike is. I'm glad that you said this and someone else has this relationship because I don't have a specific character to give him, but Mike's another Qui-Gon to me. Like literally,
absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Even outside of gripping, but if I had like the perfect example, Private Affair, infidelity could be fatal, whatever. Yeah. So we went back to the Candy Cane Inn, right? Yeah. And that's when we had Big Steve, right? Remember Big Steve? Yeah. So Big Steve. There was a fight going on. CJ wanted me to stay and key the next Kamloops show. Steve wanted me to go and be his dolly grip. Steve and CJ were fighting, and I didn't know who to go with or which side. And when I had these kind of things, I would go and I went and talked to Mike because Mike would always cut it straight. Like Mike would remove himself because Mike knew because he's like, "Fuck yeah, I want you to be my key grip," but he's like, "I'm not gonna say that to keep you here." And he would cut it so dry and be like, "Well, you this or this. What do you want to do?" And I loved Mike for that. Like anytime I had a big set issue that I felt I couldn't ask in the grip department, he was such a wealth of knowledge with the politics of it.
He knows the politics of it big time. Like so many times, he's even told me like when there's like a show being planned out here and stuff, I'd be on set with him at a Hallmark and he'd be like, "You better be applying for that." So I don't care if you're on my crew or not. He's like, you should be getting onto these shows. Like always pushing me to go and like try for bigger things, which is just great. Like I guess that's a really good thing about Hallmark for sure is you meet these mentors who are like they're in it because they're tired of the grind and the big stuff, right? Because in the big world, man, it's like that's why first ADs, the average age of death for a first AD is 50, right? Like it's because the long hours, usually they smoke, they don't have time to take care of themselves. And then I get this guy Mike Johansson and he looks like he's 40 and he's 52, 51 maybe.
Man.
Like just like this is probably a guy I want to learn from, considering he goes completely against what the average first AD is supposed to look like, right? And like live like. Yeah, it's wild. So, are you looking do you find yourself learning more when you have a newbie on set with you to teach as well?
100. It's been rampant with me since I was in electrical school. Been rampant through my entire career through trades, and especially with set. I find I'm learning more by teaching.
100%. Me too.
And I was the same way in electrical school. Like, even if I was struggling with something, but I had a little bit of the leg up on the math. Like, I'm pretty good at math and stuff. And a lot of the guys, like, especially some of these guys were like 40, 50 doing a career change with like grade 10 math from 30 years ago, right? Doing trigonometry. So take them through, but especially on set too. Over this past year and a half or so, I kind of entered into this weird realm in Kelowna where you guys kind of knew me as the dolly grip in Kamloops, but this last year I ended up taking quite a few key gigs because it was this weird kind of ether where I didn't think I was quite ready to be keying, but I was also the only local cheapest option and at the point for who was left, like the most experienced. So I kind of entered into this weird, I was keying, but I'm also like learning how to key as I'm doing. It's the whole film industry is a fake it till you make it. I did 3 shows on Dolly before I thought I was any decent at Dolly.
Just don't let them see you sweat.
Well, exactly, right? It's all about faking it till you make it. But now with the keying, I ended up, like I said, my boy Sammy Miami. Shout out Sammy, I love you.
So many shout outs in the show. I love it.
I met him, he was a PA, and it was one of the first things. I love it. I call it my grip roster. I'm always telling him any time friggin' I'm on anything, I'm always like, especially my friends at home, we'll start drinking with a young kid or something, like, hey, want to make movies? You know what a grip does? What's that? I'm like, Brody, shut up. He's not coming to work today. Like, I'm building an army. Building an army of grips. So I ended up, but the thing wasn't Kelowna. Like I said, some of the guys who trained me either moved on to different things. A couple of the guys moved back to Vancouver, so we were kind of left with, like, it was me, Sammy, who's still pretty young, but he's doing good. And then, like, literally I was grabbing, like, hey, I saw you on a short film. You want to be a grip? What's that, kid? Come with me. Just shut up and do what you're goddamn told. And then that got to a point where we had, I think, 3 shows going on before Christmas that it was literally like, hey, do you have a kid? What's he doing tomorrow? Like literally I was grabbing transport thing. So I was getting all these green, but I love it. I love the teach, and now too, some of these boys I've seen go on to other crews and I'm getting calls from their keys being like, oh, like Carson's out here just killing it. I'm like, that's my boy, like it's nice to see that.
That's awesome.
And I love it too because film in my mind is always, it's all about who you know, right?
Yep. Networking.
But
100%.
I always like to say, if you don't know anyone in film, now you know me. Like, give me a call. Like, I'm an open book. So, like, I love being that because I never had that. And that's why, like, what we do, I'm part of a nonprofit in Kamloops called YKA Film.
Yeah,
We're trying to promote and get more and be the resource because, like,
I really want to be able to do something with them in this whole project.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to have CJ out here at some point.
She would love to come down.
Get on the show. That'd be really cool. If she ever let her know. I'll let her know myself even. Like, yeah, that's wicked, man. So, like, you do this thing with the nonprofit.
Oh, sorry, YKA. Where was I going with that? Nonprofit. Oh, because this is the mitigate. And not saying looking back on it, could have gone way worse. I had an amazing time. I would love to reach out to these people now that I'm actually back into the industry and kind of say thank you. But I ended up finding a guy off Kijiji who was shooting like a short film, went out to Armstrong when I was like 18 to like somebody had no idea to go in this field and shoot. And that was it. That was the only thing that kind of passed across the desk in Kamloops for years until like that at least I was able to kind of get my teeth into or know of to get that foot in the door.
Yep.
And now I say like on this, I was like, anyone, like reach out to me on social media, anything. Like I will tell you what you need to do and the steps to take it if you want to take that dive. But this being said, I was listening to the podcast you did with Brandon, and the warning I want to give to people, because I thought Brandon put this good, is you don't have a career in film when you start. Yeah. A career in film is something you earn.
Yeah.
When you start, and if you're serious about this, you have a life in film. You have 5 years of a life in film. There is nothing else. It consumes everything you do. I've been in this weird renaissance. Like, yes, I would have rather been working because I'm a psychopath. We're all filmmakers. We're all psychos. But in reality, the last year, I've been traveling. I've seen my grandma and my mom way more. My cats friggin' love me because I'm home all the time. Even now with the shoulder, I'm doing all this writing and seeing buddies and coming down and doing this and stuff. But it's you also got to understand. I know that I got to save this as much as I'd rather be at work. I'm trying to soak up as much as this because I know that I'm an addict.
Yeah.
And as soon as this shoulder is fixed, I will sell myself to whatever studio wants to take me or whatever production wants to go because I just love making goddamn movies so much.
That's awesome.
But that's what I warn people is it's not a career. You earn a career. In 5 years when you can say no, I'm not taking that job. No, I don't want to do that show because for the first 5 years it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
You have to take every job you get. You have to be able at a moment's call be like, oh shit, babe, I know we had dinner plans with your parents tomorrow, but I just got offered this show, and literally be able to pack up your car and leave in the middle of the night, which I've done, And that's what I tell my boys too. When the young guys getting into it, it's I'll get their number and hey, if you want a grip, and I'll text them randomly. It'll be hey, can you be here at right now, in an hour, and I'll pay you for a 12-hour day. And they're hey, sorry, man, I can't make it. I'm hey, don't say sorry. Don't ever apologize for me texting you at 5 o'clock on a Friday asking you to work a fucking 14-hour shift. Just always pick up the phone, though.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be that one day that you won't actually go I'm not doing anything. And that one day, like I said, all it takes is one day. If you're good and you get onto a film set in any department, one day and you are laughing.
You're locked in.
As long as you know how to network and bust your ass, and the networking comes after. As long as you just bust your ass and keep your mouth shut, you'll probably get hired back. Honestly, I look at, and the locations hates me. All the ALMs I know hate me. Because like I said, I'm building an army. I'm constantly recruiting. Every single department that isn't a grip on set, I am constantly, if I know you're new on set and this is your first show, you're on my roster. You're on my draft sheet.
That's awesome.
And I'm watching you, and if I like you, I'll go over and I'm you don't want to be a fucking PA. What do you want to do? Come on. And I've gotten a couple guys who wanted to go to camera or this and that.
I've seen you.
Been into grips now
and
are loving it and killing it, and they're doing their own camera shit on the side. And I'm saying camera will teach you camera, but you can go out and buy a fucking camera and shoot your own stuff and learn cinematography on the side. That's what I'm doing right now. No one's going to tell you how to. You're not going to have the tools. Even if you can bend the light in a setting, you're not going to have this to set up in a room. You're not going to have 12 by 12s or getting into 40 by 6, big stuff. So or these young guys too, were dolly grip. Dolly grip is the best. Like I was talking about the eye of the storm. The dolly grip is
The centerpiece.
the most thankless and thankful job out there. That and focus pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I made Adam a thing and it said dolly grippings. Or what does it say? Everyone, if you do everything right, no one will be sure if you've done anything at all. And it was like, that was dolly gripping and focus pulling in a nutshell.
Yep.
It's like, people only notice when you fuck up.
Yeah.
They don't notice when you do, like, it's like, oh, actors, that was a great take. First AC, that was a great focus pull. Camera off, that's good. And you're sitting there sweating behind the dolly. You're like, yeah, thanks, boss. I boom and friggin' 40-foot track run and 4 resets. That's fine, but again, when you nail that move, it's such a high. Like, you're addicted to that. I don't know. I just love making movies, man.
That's awesome, Brody. Really, that's really cool, man. It's been really good having you here.
Thanks
I think
for having me,
it's hour 40 in, so let's why don't we holler out, like, give yourself a shout out. Tell us, look in this camera right here in
This
front
one?
of you. Yeah. And you tell them where they can find your stuff. Show off your gear a little bit. Pull that headset back so they can see your logo.
Yeah.
There we go.
At Greasy Film Gear, GREC Film Gear on Instagram and Facebook. And then at Real Greasent, Real, GRECENT, stands for Greasy Entertainment. That's my YouTube channel, TikTok. Going to be a lot of clothing. We're going to do some YouTube shows, chops, cooking. I also want to shout out my buddy Xander in the kitchen. If you love cooking shows, this guy is an immaculate chef. He's doing some wicked stuff. And my boys at the Omnia Theater here. I just love this whole process, man. This
Appreciate
is
it,
wicked
man.
to be a part of, boys. Like,
Yeah.
love
Well,
to see where this goes.
looking forward to see what we can do together, man. Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you've been stimulated with this conversation. I know I definitely have. This has been a great one. Like, as always, like and subscribe. OmniaTheater.com if you want to check out our website. We have some merch now, so go ahead and go on there and check out our all of our clothing options. We got some hoodies, got some stickers, all that good shit. Your boy on the deficit has some really cool looking sweaters too, so check that out. You can check out the Instagram, click our link in bio, go to the website. Any way you want to go about it. We're on Rumble, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. And thanks again. We'll talk to you on another one. Peace.
I wanna love just like I like my tea, warm to the touch and so sweet, so sweet. Warm me up all hard like an Okanagan summer, then cool me down, rain on me like it's Vancouver. I want a love that makes me bright. You and I, you and I. Light on these days, warm cold to the touch, feeling sideways, sideways. Warm me up all hard, dive into the beach with no AC, then cool me down, watch the waves sit in my feet. I want a love that makes me bright. You and I, you and I. You and I, you and I, you and I, you and I, you and I. die.